Hey y'all, Kevin Hutchison here with Realty Austin, and I am grateful to be a part of Stories Inside the Man Cave, a homegrown podcast just like my own business.
Wake your ass up
or take a damn nap.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
It's time.
Sean, you were twerking. That's going to happen.
Murph, don't be a dick all your life.
It's one of the more fun podcasts I've ever done.
Hey, I tell you what, if you're not talking about sports in the man cave, I bet not say you got a bed.
That's it.
Look at that dramatic opening for a guy. Man, did you ever have an open like that before any type of big game you pitched in?
I don't think so. We had our walk-up songs and stuff like that, but yeah, it was nothing that big.
That's like a World Series intro or something you would see in Omaha.
Now, you know what? So I think we were doing I don't know, it was 4 or 5 years ago. We were doing a thing in Houston to celebrate the 15th or whatever, the 2005 World Series team. And of course, the stadium announcer for the Astros has that really big voice. And in that stadium, when it's closed, it's really loud. Now coming on the field, it was, Travis, however he says my name. And that was kind of cool. But
that was
that might be the only thing that compared with that. That's good stuff. And you showed me striking out Jeter, so that was awesome.
Oh yeah, that's big time, So people watching here on episode 136, Travis Driskill, we went to the same high school, Anderson High School here in Austin, who has all of a sudden become a state championship high school here in the last 2 weeks.
No, what'd they win?
Lacrosse, boys and girls golf state championships.
Wow.
And the individual golf state champions on both the boys and girls.
Wow. Beating schools like Travis and Westlake when you talk about golf.
It's unreal. Highland Park. And it's just all of a sudden. So Anderson is golf central amongst Texas high school.
How good for them. Pretty
amazing. Hey, by the way, this episode brought to you by our guys at Honest Air Conditioning and Plumbing, based out of Hutto, but they serve Round Rock, Georgetown, Leander, Cedar Park, North Austin. They're old school and they're veteran owned. And the handshake, that's their big deal. They are all about the handshake agreement. Pretty much means you can trust them. And right now it's hotter than hell already in Austin. And
pretty warm up here in the DFW too.
In the DFW where TD is. So give those guys a call. To get a service done, maintenance before it gets really triple digit, which will probably happen here in the next day or two. I'm Sean Clinch. If you guys are not aware, the host here, Travis Driskill was drafted 3 times out of Anderson High School, out of Blinn, guns up for life as a Red Raider.
That's right.
He was drafted again and parlayed that into a 15-year career pitching, and it was in the majors, through the minor league system, in Mexico, you name it, the guy's seen it. And part of this episode later on, we're going to have a little bit of influence we're going to take it a different direction later on about Travis's suggestions for tequila and maybe some bourbon as well, as he puts one cocktail for the
little tequila going there right there.
So Trav, when you sum up your pro career, I know you've been retired for a little bit, not too long. When you look back at that, and what is it about your career that you think is different from most people's career when they say, yeah, I played professionally 15 years, but you don't have one bad memory, really?
No, and obviously I had bad games and everything like that, but I think about from the day that I signed till the day that I retired, it was I mean, some of the best times of my life. Obviously, I had some big moments, marrying my wife, meeting my wife, marrying my wife, having children with my wife. Those are huge. But just on a personal level, when it comes to baseball, I was as lucky as a boy could be. When the first time I picked up baseball, I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I remember my dad taking me to Orioles games when we lived in D.C. when he was in the Air Force. I think we went up to Philadelphia a couple times because Philadelphia is not far from D.C. And that's what I wanted to do. And so when you get to do what you wanted to do as a child, as an adult, you have the greatest things going on in the world. 100%. And that's what I got.
And so when you look at that, did you feel like, sometimes we forget that baseball, obviously playing at the professional level, at any level, minors, MLB, Japan, Mexico, wherever, Latin America, it's often forgotten that it's young boys. It's that mentality, baseball. You're out there having fun. I know it's a business. I know it's a job, but did you ever lose that piece of it being a fun, is to having being a kid, so to speak?
I know there were moments, where, maybe you get a little bit tired of the grind. You're talking about, July, it's 105 outside. Maybe I've had a rough couple starts or a couple bad outings as a reliever, and you're like, oh my God. But you always think about, the alternative, and we used to call it, I think you could always join the lunch bucket crew, and that's the construction guys bringing their lunch bucket to work. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna stick it out. I never ever thought about saying, you know what, this is it until the end. But my body was saying it's time.
Yeah.
Because I would have played until my arm fell off if they would have let me, but I don't think they were going to let me anymore after my velocity was really taking a big hit.
When you look back and you talked about striking out Jeter, that's got to be one of your favorite Major League Baseball strikeouts, because you were a guy that I remember Pony Colt League here in Austin, Texas. Your work ethic was phenomenal, but you were always working on a new pitch. I don't remember how many you had back then, but you were crafty. How many?
I remember back then just experimenting, and that's something that, we talk about youth baseball. We get away from that now. I remember it was the coaches would show me, like, I remember my little league coach, John Bryant, he taught me how to throw, or showed me how to throw a curveball. Then I learned how to throw it. Then I figured out how to do it. And it was through trial and error. And finally, I figured out something that worked for me. Same with the slider, same with just any pitch that I was throwing, trying to do it on my own. Where now, and I've done lessons with guys, you need to teach me this pitch. You need to teach me that pitch. I'm like, holy crap, man. First, we got to learn how to throw a strike with the old number one. And, I wish I would have known that a little bit more back then, but throwing strikes was really never an issue. But I wish I could have maybe focused on some of that stuff. But by the time I got to college and high school, I pretty much had my pitches set in my ways and good enough to get me into pro ball. And then as I got older, I did learn the split finger, and that was the difference maker. But everybody wants it almost like handed to them, and they think, oh, if I'm getting a pitching lesson or a hitting lesson, some kind of lesson in sports, it's like, well, if I get a lesson, I'm going to be as good as that guy was. Well, it's just not. It doesn't work like that, and it's a shame that there's those expectations that those kids have like that.
It's unreal. It's unreal. When your sons, your two sons, who play baseball, have played, when you talk about, when you look at the video, like the one you saw in the Open, striking out Jeter, do they ever ask you, or do you ever tell them, okay, that was a big moment, striking out Jeter, but was there another moment, or maybe an individual in the MLB level that was more memorable for you, that really was rewarding for yourself?
Well, so you saw that Jeter strikeout. Well, in that game, I think I went 7 2/3. I beat David Wells, who statistically is the winningest pitcher at the old Yankee Stadium. So that's really cool because I beat that guy. And so to be able to do that, my phone's ringing. So that was really cool. But what made it even cooler is that was our first trip to New York City. My wife and my sons were both there watching the game.
Wow.
So my oldest one, remember, the little one was, 2002. He would have been 2.5 years old, so really not remembering. But Tanner remembers. And at that time, because there was a little video game, I think, called Backyard Baseball, Derek Jeter was on that game. That was my son's favorite player. So his reaction is saying, "Oh my God, Dad, you struck out Jeter 3 times." And I was like, I know. How cool was that? Because I knew where Jeter stood in the game already at that point. Yeah. I think he'd only had 6-7 years in the big leagues at that time, but you knew that guy was going to the Hall of Fame.
100%.
And so to be able to have, for a guy who had kind of a nondescript career, when you think about those guys, for one day, I was better than that guy. And that's a big sense of pride. And it should be, every ball player or every person in sports deserves to have some kind of moment that they can look back on and think that they're great. Al Bundy had it, when he scored 5 touchdowns in his game. Just stuff like that. You got to remember those kind of things.
That's true. And I think, did you inherit any of that from, the Driskell family? I know your dad was an accomplished guy, engineering. And one story that I know you and I probably talked about at least 3 or 4 times, the Pony Colt Field that you and I played on in what was Northwest Austin. Now it's North Central. Right. The Memorial Day flood of '81 really
wiped it out.
That. How do you, when you ever talk about that? Because that resulted in a pretty amazing field.
It did. And that, how beautiful it looked, especially at the time. And I haven't seen it in years, but I would imagine that it's probably been kept up pretty well and still a very nice facility. But that was a big deal. And I think maybe had I lived in Austin, not Round Rock, but in Austin, and was maybe a little bit more involved, I would have tried to make a push to have that field renamed or at least his name associated with that field, because that would have been pretty cool. But I don't think I'm in any position or anything to be able to put that on. And I think, people 40 years from now really don't, well, who was Melvin Driskell? So I don't think it's not that big of a deal. And I don't think he's even looking for that kind of recognition, but he did do an amazing job to get that done. And so, and that's one thing in sports that we always talk about as players. And, the veterans like to remind you, hey, remember where you came from. Remember also the people before you. And so, those people that are those kids that are playing now, if they could hear little stories about that, they might think, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. But
it's never too late. We could team up and really put together a campaign and see if the city of Austin will rename it in honor of your dad.
Well, they'd probably find out that his politics don't lean the way Austin goes, and they would probably say, yeah, I don't know if we're going to have that. He's a little on the conservative side, where Austin still doesn't lean that way.
That's a good point, and that's something we can't overcome. But that if anyone wants to see the field we're talking about, if you're in the Austin area, go. If you're coming from the north, go south on Shoal Creek Boulevard.
Yep.
Takes a big turn, and then there's a kind of a fork in the road to your left. Go up and over the Shoal Creek and down to the park. It's a beautiful, beautiful field.
It is.
They play high school ball there now.
I know. I heard that's one of the AISD's fields now.
I would have never guessed that.
And that field was small. I think it was like 300 feet down the lines and maybe 315 to dead center. So it was not a big field, but I think for high school that could be fun. Because like in Round Rock, left field is 360. Not too many high school kids can hit a ball 360 routinely and get a home run there. So you get a field where home runs can happen. I think that's exciting for the kids.
100% it is. It's
and I think that should be part of it. That's why I love Westlake's baseball field. It's very small. So a home run can happen if you got a bomber there. He might be able to hit a dozen homers in a year. That's exciting, and that should be part of the game.
That's the beauty of baseball. Not each field is different. The dimensions are unique.
Oh yeah.
If you remember, I think West Austin off of infield, the West Austin.
Oh, love that field.
And left field's
Love
like
that
2
field.
something.
Right. And if you hit a homer, I think if you hit it far enough, you could get it on the exposition.
Yeah, I think you're
And
right.
that's pretty cool, right there by the golf course. Yeah, that I think if you hit it far enough, you could have gone. Because I don't think the road. I think there was a little bit of a road that went behind left field, but I think you still could get it over the bushes and onto the street.
Who's the new co-host over here? The VIP, your co-VIP.
This is Liberty. She's our 2-year-old. Well, she's not a puppy anymore. She's our 2-year-old miniature schnauzer. Yeah, she's a good girl. We got her. She was born on. So this is why we called her Liberty. She was born on March 2nd, which is Texas Independence Day, and so we had to celebrate her with a good name like Liberty.
I love it. The goddess of liberty on top of the state capital of Texas.
Exactly. There you go.
Liberty.
Say hi.
That's a good girl.
Yeah.
Oh, she loves that.
Oh yes, she's a good
that.
girl. She still poops in the house every now and then, but
well, don't we
it's
all?
better than peeing in the house.
We all have those moments.
Exactly.
Hey, I hate to bring this up, but the thing is, you were part of a culture change with Anderson High School baseball in Austin, Texas. You guys had a great team, that '89 team, and I think we all knew the potential. But as the year went along, it was special. I remember this. I was a sophomore. I think you were a junior.
I was a junior.
You guys went to Brenham. They had a guy there named John Peters who was on the front of Sports Illustrated.
Yep.
A early season tournament. Kind of played well until you played Brenham. But you went all the way to Disch-Falk back then. That's when the state tournaments were all there.
Yeah.
Beat Brenham. They didn't start Peters.
No, they started James Nix, who was also John Peters was like 58-0.
Yeah.
Nix was like 31, 32-0. And then he ended up getting drafted and signing with the Reds, I think, out of Brenham. So he was, from a talent standpoint, he was better than John Peters because John just kept getting hurt.
Yeah.
But was still a phenomenal pitcher and a phenomenal guy. I don't know if you've ever gotten to meet him or do anything like that, but he wrote a book that was just phenomenal, explaining everything like that. And but yeah, to beat them, because they were 3 times defending state champions, and the whole town of Brenham was in the stands, and then of course we had the Anderson High School there, and that was just a monstrous event. The only thing I wish that would have worked out better is, Paris beat us in the next game, but they beat Leander High School. So we had a chance to have an or a Central Texas final. And, that just doesn't happen very often because, most teams, when you're from one area, they're in the same region. So you're just not going to have those opportunities. But that was when Cedar Park High School didn't even exist yet. It was all Leander Independent School District, I guess, back then.
I remember. I'm glad you said that. I had totally forgotten about that. That was a beautiful day at the Dish, and that's the stadium that's behind us here. But the grandstands were full.
Yes.
For a 4A state semifinal game. I remember. Now you were the starter of that game, correct?
I did. I started both games. So I started
right.
against Brenham, and I went 4 or 5 innings. I'm not sure what I went, and then I want to say Chris Potts finished it up, and we won. And because Matt Hill was still hurt, or still hurting, I don't know if he was truly hurt at that. Like, he wasn't hurt so bad that he couldn't pitch, but he wasn't hurt, or he was still hurt bad enough that he wasn't going to be able to give 100% of what he was able to give us up to that point. Because Matt was phenomenal getting us there. And then so I remember, I think we went to Fuddruckers after the game, and Coach Tompkins said, "Trav, you're starting tomorrow." I was like, "Huh?
What?"
All right. And what's funny is, and again, another lesson in life that I learned then is shortly after that Brenham tournament, the 6 weeks was over. I flunked geometry, I think. And so I was out for 6 weeks. And so I missed the first 2 or 3 runs playoff series. And so, I mean, it worked out really well that, as Matt didn't feel very good to pitch, we had a fresh arm, and so a lot of teams just don't get that lucky. And, that's the way I contributed. I had my ups and downs that year. Coach Tompkins and I really didn't see eye to eye all the time. I was the new transfer coming from Johnston High School. And so we had just our little run-ins. It's just because I wasn't one of the guys. And it happens. But, we made up and, we got through. And then the next year, I was the guy. And it worked out pretty well for me there, too.
It did. It started a new – Anderson was really good for about a good 6-year stretch.
Right.
Looking back at that Paris game, the state championship, I remember you guys were pounding Paris. It was like 8-3. And were you gassed?
No. So this is the weird part. Okay, so I think I pitched 4, again, maybe 5 innings, not sure. And we were winning. And again, not quite sure what the score was, but I know we were winning by 4 or 5 runs. And then I think that was the opportunity. We're going to put Matt in the game. He hadn't pitched in a while. Said he felt good enough. Things didn't work out well, so they brought in Chris Potts. He didn't do well. And so in high school, and hopefully they don't have these rules anymore, you could re-enter the game.
Oh.
So I came in again and got like the last outs in the 6th inning, I'm assuming, if they were the home team. And so they didn't have to pitch in the 7th. But I ended up I pitched twice in that game, starter and the guy that came in at the end. But by the time I came in, it was too late, and we weren't able to maintain.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, that kind of stinks, but that's breaks of the game.
That is. Baseball is a cruel, cruel game. It can be. And I still remember that like it was yesterday. It was definitely silent because it was shocking that Paris came back like that.
Right. And, I don't know if Paris has done anything since then. I don't, usually you hear about schools that win state championships that, they usually make like deep run into the playoffs, quite regularly. Lake Travis does, Westlake does. You hear about some of those Houston schools, all that, like the Woodlands. So you always hear about those kind of schools, but Paris was one of those schools that just didn't hear much about. But they had a phenomenal left-handed pitcher that went to Sam's, and I think had a decent high school or college career afterwards. So they had a pretty good pitcher of their own.
Yeah, they did. Hey, real quick, we're going to go to a segment that you'll get a good laugh out of. It's one of our sponsors. It involves taking care of stuff below the belt. Yeah, we call this manscaping in the man cave. I have a couple of promos that I created. They've been very generous, very supportive of stories inside the man cave. And I'm just going to promote their new gift package here.
All right. On.
The crop exfoliator, crop gel, crop shaver. And I mean, it's pretty impressive. I have my favorite. Look, I'll open this thing up. I want to show you this. So, I'm still a big user of the previous products. My favorite's the ball deodorant. It is. It smells like sweet mahogany and pheromones.
I don't even know if I want to even go there.
Crop gel, baby. So my big deal is for the significant others, lady friends or ladies of our lives who are our priority.
Right.
I'm just guessing here. They would rather us not resemble the German Black Forest below the belt.
I would assume.
It's an assumption. And it's manscape.com. Log on. This is their new package. Again, the crop exfoliator, crop gel, and the crop shaver. That's a nice deal. And you can also look at their other products, the Lawnmower 4.0. Fabulous tool. And this right here below us, below Trav and I.
Yeah, I see. Mancave 20.
Mancave 20. Use that. Before you check out, you get 20% off. Like Mac Brown would say, it's a neat deal. It really is. Hey, in case you wanted to see Travis before we get to the best part of the first segment, I have that video of you striking out Jeter. We got. I think this would be well worth a view here. Let me go back up here. It's not cooperating, Trav. Here we go. This is what year was this?
2002. So one of the highlights I think it showed like all 6 strikeouts that I got, and then the other one I think was the last pitch against one of the against Jeter for one of the strikeouts.
This is phenomenal. I mean, look at Travis is focused, dialed in, like it was just another hitter. Just check this out.
And there it is. Jeter is.
Got him.
Yeah, that was fun. So a lot of people always ask, when you talk about baseball or in athletes, playing in front of 50,000 people, is that nerve-wracking? It can be, but I can honestly tell you, out on the mound, I am so comfortable there. Whether I'm pitching in front of 3 people, like you go to the spring training sites and there's nobody on the backfield other than your teammates, and you can hear every conversation, or on the Yankee Stadium mound, I was able to focus so hard on what I wanted to do that I could tune everything out. Very aware of what's going on, but it's time to make the pitch, and that movie, clear that mechanism or whatever.
Right.
I could still throw the pitch without having any outside thoughts going on in my head. And that if there was anything that I was good at in my game, it was the mental part. It was the physical part that I might have had some issues, and that's the separator between the really good ones and a guy like me. I think, like, if you look at, you talk about how good certain players were, you look at my WAR, I'm a 0. I was replacement player. And so when you hear about, the Mike Trouts or the Kershaws and those guys having these big WAR numbers, I was who they replaced, and that's why they are so much better than I was.
It's amazing the fine line.
And that's exactly what it is. I wholeheartedly believe the talent difference between a guy like me and a guy like Kershaw is that much, but when you start spreading it out over the course of a career, it gets to be this big, and that's why Kershaw and Clemens and those names are so big, and their accomplishments are so big. I have an accomplishment; they have accomplishments, and it's amazing to see and watch those guys' careers.
Well, that's a good transition to the Man Cave story. There's been some really quality ones, and if you Hall of Fame level Man Cave stories, which is brought to us by our guy Jim Saxton, State Farm Insurance Agency, Austin OG, Westlake OG, Longhorn Legacy. That guy, just to give you an example of what he's done. Like I bought a new truck about a month and a half ago.
Big money.
I called his office. They had my insurance switched within 30 minutes, and it was already in my app.
Isn't that great?
SaxtonInsurance.com for all of you guys if you need any type of insurance coverage for anything. And they're very, very laid back. And that's it's just funny how the world works. Kind of like this podcast. Laid back, anything goes.
Nice. It is relaxed. Honest conversations. I love it.
I love it. Honest. Just be real. If there was a story from the clubhouse or maybe your baseball experiences on any level that you love telling, is there one that really stands out over the others?
One that stands out.
That's what's up.
It is. When I think about big moments, I got a kick out of facing Barry Bonds and making sure that he didn't get a hit or a homer off me. That was fun in the big leagues. But most people ask, like, what was your best moment? Obviously, I'm going to say the Yankee game. That was probably my best, most memorable moment that people could relate to. But to be honest, I think my best moment was in my last year of playing, and I'm with the Express.
Yeah.
I made the All-Star team. First All-Star team I've made since I was in Little League or whatever.
Wow.
So for 15 years in pro ball, I never made an All-Star game until my last season. And I went and pitched in the All-Star game, 3 up, 3 down. Everything was great. And then we have a doubleheader in Iowa. And I was the pitcher of record in a rainout game. So I kind of started that game. There was a runner on first, 1 out. And I remember telling the guys in the bullpen, because my spot was also coming up to bat, so I knew I was going to get pitch hit for. And I said, I'm going to throw 1 pitch, get a double play, and get the win in the game. I threw 1 pitch, got a double play, and got the win in the game. While as cool as that is, well, we had to play the doubleheader. And most organizations have a rule. You pitch once, you're done for the day. Well, I only threw 1 pitch, and again, I was also the old guy on the team. And it wasn't that big of a deal for me to be ready or anything like that. So that next game goes extra innings. I end up throwing 5 perfect innings in that game. And I think I threw like 50-something pitches. And I threw like 4 fastballs, and I threw all splits the rest of the day. And I don't know if I got the win. I must have got the win in that game because we won the game and it was extra inning. So I'm assuming I got the win. So now I got 2 wins in a day. And it was so perfect. It was the best. But the cool part about it was after the game, their guys on the Iowa team saying, wow, man, that was phenomenal what you did. I said, well, thanks. And then the next day, my teammates, everybody just appreciating the job that you did, even the other team saying, wow, you pitched in the first game, you pitched in the second game, and you dominated. And that, just the appreciation that you get from other teammates when you do well is great.
That's great, because a lot of people don't hear that, because you become a self-served, instant gratification society. You don't hear these stories much anymore.
Right.
Baseball.
And what made that too, what was great too, is the team needed me that day. We were shorthanded because of the doubleheader, and they needed me to do more than because I was the closer for the better part of that season. So 1, maybe 2 innings at most. Now I went 5. Now, of course, I would probably say after that, I was probably kind of spent for the rest of the season and didn't do all that well. But I did get called back up to the big leagues for 1 more week, and quite possibly the greatest week of my life, because I pitched twice against the Cardinals and the Pirates. I took a loss, but not that big of a deal. It was the fact that I made it back to the big leagues when I had no business being there. But I pitched my way ahead of all the other guys that were in the organization to get there just for 1 more week. And I appreciated that week far more than I did the previous year and a half that I had gotten in the big leagues.
That's amazing how that all works out.
And I can also tell you, this is a true fact, since we have some drinks in front of us. The
Cheers.
beer, the 32 major league city, or the 30 major league cities, when you are wearing a major league uniform, the beer there is colder than anywhere else in the world.
You heard it here first. That's a
When
great.
you're wearing a major league uniform and you drink a beer in a major league city, the beer is colder than it is anywhere. You go. I love Round Rock, and the beer was cold, but not as cold as it was in Houston. I'm just letting you know. So to all you minor leaguers, you want the coldest beer? Go to the big leagues.
That's motivation in itself.
Without a doubt.
Facts. That makes me. God, I want to. Man, is it so?
Well, think about it. You were in TV, so Austin's a big market, but I can guarantee you, if you were working in LA, the beer would be colder in LA for the
100%
for the TV people. Guaranteed 100%.
We needed wet bars in the newsroom.
I bet y'all did.
I wish. That's very politically correct there for the last 5 years.
Right. So, but what would have happened? And you might remember the guy growing up. I think he was on the NBC station, Vic the Brick. You remember that guy?
That's
what you would end up with.
Vic the Brick Jacobs.
If you were drinking in the newsrooms, yeah, you'd have Vic the Brick. You'd be throwing bricks at the camera, man.
That's the guy we need to have a beer with.
You think that guy's still around?
I would think. You know what? I met him. So what Super Bowl, what was it, the 2010 Super Bowl, 2010 season Super Bowl that had the snow and ice
Up
storm?
and downs?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what year that was, but I remember when that happened because the Steelers were in that game.
Yes, Steelers and Green Bay.
Steelers and Green Bay, I think.
So I was working OKC. We were there for a freaking week. So at Media Day, I met Vic the Brick Jacobs was working, I think, in LA. And I introduced myself, same personality, but that was 12 years ago.
Right. That's amazing. He was still around.
He was shocked that I remembered who he was. But he was very humble.
Let's see. And this is sad now. I don't watch SportsCenter. You know, I watch the MLB Network and I watch some of their shows. But SportsCenter holds no interest to me like it used to. You know, when they ran it, like when the sports was the news, not the fact that, you know, player was dating this player or said something, you know, that might have gone out of line politically or something like that. I don't want to hear about that. I want to know about sports.
Yeah.
And but you know, SportsCenter used to be cool to watch.
Yeah.
You know, we knew who all those announcers were. You know, they were, but even by watching local news back home, you know, you wait, you know, you knew the weather was on at, 15, and then after they did a little story after that, and then at 25, you knew the sports was coming on. You had to be there. I think those days are gone, and that, to me, that's sad.
It's really sad, and that's one of the reasons I got out, because it's become a clickbait generated industry.
Right.
But it's just like everything else. Things are inevitable. Change is constant.
Yes, and it's fine.
It's sad. It's sad. I think.
But change is not always for the better.
Absolutely right about that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, Trav, and on the other side, we're going to show. I got something for you, and we're going to talk about our guy Mike Capps, who you work alongside.
Nice.
And we're going to discuss your favorite tequila. We're going to try to mix it all in.
Nice.
And I think that's a really good transition. That's coming up on the other side of this break.
Right on.
For all of your insurance needs, look no further than our primary sponsor, Jim Saxton State Farm Insurance Agency. The ATX OG has been insuring Austin for over 3 decades. And get this, Jim Saxton is a Longhorn legacy. He is the son of the late, great James Saxton, who was a Heisman finalist. Be sure to give him a call, or better yet, visit his website, saxtoninsurance.com, and tell him that the Stories Inside the Man Cave boys recommended you.
This is JJ Gotch, CEO of the Austin Gamblers, and segment 2 of Stories Inside the Man Cave is next.
For me to end my career on that day with them, because especially my wife, she was with me from day one. She was my girlfriend when I got drafted, and so, you know, she went through every emotion that I had. So for her to be able to come bring me off the field and end it that way, it made it, I mean, again, just emotional, but it made it easy to end the career.
Wow. That was a part of the voice of the Round Rock Express, Mike Capps. That's part of, I think we had 8 episodes discussing the book, Grinders, Baseball's Intrepid Infantry, which you are a grinder of baseball. And that was a fun episode, but how you described that last game and how the Express planned it, that is so unique in itself.
It was, and again, you know, I don't know here, I might be able to turn the camera. So somewhere back there, there's a rectangular picture, but up in the thing, there's a newspaper article, and it shows my sons and my wife and me walking off the field. So, you know, I get to see that every day.
That's awesome.
And, I think about it all the time. And on that picture, there's also people that were there, our friends and everything that, congratulated me on a great career and stuff like that. So I get to see that. I appreciate it every day. But what the Express did was just unbelievable. And, Jackie Moore always said it best. There is no better place to be if you're not in the big leagues than Round Rock. And I wholeheartedly believe it. And I think what made it more special is the fact that I lived there. That was my community team. So I was part of the community. I was part of the team. And so, seeing the fans, people could come to me in the bullpen and say hi. Yeah. And it could have been my neighbor from up the street. And so that was good stuff.
I've seen a few major or minor league baseball facilities, met their staffs. But I got to say, and I haven't seen all of them, but I will say this, and you can confirm this. You just did, basically. Chris Almendaris and the Ryan and Sanders families, phenomenal job of providing a true big league atmosphere and making it so laid back and welcoming. The product gets better every year at the Dell Diamond. They make everybody who enters that gate feel like a family.
They do. And, okay, so here's what's funny about, because you mentioned Chris Almendaris. Chris didn't work for the Express up to that point yet. He was still doing pharmaceutical sales or something at that point, because our kids were playing on their little league teams together at that point. And but through me knowing Reed, and then of course Jackson was the same age as Luke, and my youngest Tyler, so they all ended up on one of those coach pitch teams together, or what, I don't know what year it was, but that's how Chris and Reed got hooked up. And then Reed was able to bring Chris into the fold and everything like it. Just, when we talk about baseball family and how small it can be, had my sons not met Chase's sons and played baseball, now I don't get to know Chris. Now Chris maybe doesn't get to meet Reed in that same situation or at the timing of everything and get into this situation. So it's just weird. And, Chris and I, whenever we see each other, that's one of our little conversations, that how amazing it is that the timing of how everything worked out. But Chris has been able to keep the legacy, the original Round Rock Express front office, all those guys, what they built on. And Chris has just added his own twist and keeps, like you said, keeps making it better and better.
By the way, this segment, which is going to be a quick segment, unfortunately, brought to you by farmhousedelivery.com. Texas grown produce, organic, Texas ranched and sourced meats. Trav, I've really become a frequent user of this group. What they'll do, you go to the site, farmhousedelivery.com. You select your items. They do all these meal kits. They do, and these creations. It's phenomenal. You put it in. If you use this promo code MANCAVE, 2 separate words, get 20% off your first order. They'll deliver it to your doorstep. And you got this big gray plastic box with your chilled meats, everything. I've got a skirt steak that I have plans to use on Saturday. Unbelievable. The chili from Austin Beer Works was outstanding. I didn't know what to expect. Phenomenal.
I like me some Austin Beer Works.
Next time in town, what is it? The Pearl Snap is my favorite. Is that yours?
I don't know what it. I just remember going. I think we had a bachelor party for one of my friend's sons, and we tried everything they had. It was all good. Hey. But what I also remember about, and I don't know if they ever really sold it or if it was just a fake promotion, but I think they had the 100-pack of cans or 99-pack of cans, and so you saw this long tube of beer, and I was like, how cool is that? You walk into a party with a 12-pack, nobody really bats an eye, but you walk in there with 99 beers, you're the man.
That's brilliant marketing. 99 beers.
Exactly.
Oh,
my dog. Come on, Liberty.
Come on, Liberty. You got to be on the show. Hey, I think it's none other a great time, better time than to transition to something that, Travis Driskill is knowledgeable of a lot, and he's a connoisseur of this. got a
like my alcohol.
tequila and bourbon connoisseur in the house. I'm just going to let's show everybody what we're drinking currently.
All right. So today, I'm just drinking Herradura Añejo. Nothing, just a little bottle. But it makes me feel very good. But it is not my favorite. It's just the one that I have the most of that I decided to get a little bit out of. But just over the years, I have really taken to the tequila thing. And I'm pretty sure I'm not like going out of the mainstream or anything like that. But you give me the Don Julio Reposado, and I am as happy as could be. And then if you really want to get crazy, you do the Don Julio 1942. I think it costs about $125, $150 a bottle, and it'll knock your socks off how smooth. Everyone thinks, oh my God, tequila. I did tequila shots. Yeah, well, you're doing Jose Cuervo. That's going to hurt.
Ooh.
Exactly.
Oh. Good.
And you got to suck on the salt and the lime to make sure you can get it down. You don't have to do anything with this. I won't drink a tequila that I can't drink straight. So if anybody's out, if don't buy things that you will not drink straight. I understand you want to make your mixers and you might want something cheap. You might be having a party. You're just not going to enjoy it as much as if you can't drink it straight. So buy something you can drink straight. Use that for your mixers. I would never use the Añejo for a mixer or anything like that, but I will use Reposados in all my margaritas. The quality of the margarita is just so much better.
You heard it here. That's sage advice. I think we could say that apply that to any liquor. I really do.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And then, like with bourbon, you want to, I know people like, oh, bourbon and Coke or bourbon and whatever. Try it straight so you can appreciate it. I know it takes a little getting used to, but you don't have to do a full shot. You sip it just a little bit. And next thing you know, you're drinking and drinking and drinking, and it goes down well.
Yeah. So you mentioned that. Listen, I have tequilas. I have a Reposado, but I'm just not a big tequila guy. I will drink it from time to time.
Right.
My drinking or my enjoyment, let's say that my enjoyment is minimal these days. But when Travis Driskill enters the room, we drink or we enjoy our bourbon or tequila.
Yes.
We'll make it. So this is something that I've really, really enjoyed. Angel's Envy. This bottle I've had for about 1.5 years.
Right. That's not bad.
So here's the beautiful thing. It's a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. The thing is, this whiskey was aged and they put in a port wine barrel and allows it to sit in the port wine barrel. So the flavor notes are off the chains, if you will. It has a hint. It's like a 4-stage experience when you take a drink of it.
Nice.
From the start to finish, there's 4 parts to it. It's unreal. We're going to
pour, the sip, the swallow, and then the after effect. Okay, I can see it where you get 4 parts. I like it.
To me, my palate must be just abnormal. It's insane. So next time in Austin, I want to experience your tequila and you experience my bourbon.
So you mentioned it because you mentioned that
or in DFW.
Your bourbon is aged in a wine barrel. So one of the tequilas I found, and it's not expensive at all. It's called Toro de Lidia, and I think I find it at Specs. And they age in Jack Daniel's barrels.
Woo!
And again, I'm not a huge, straight Jack Daniel's fan. I find it a little sweet, but
yeah.
I know it does have some vanilla notes and all that kind of good stuff. And so when I found that out, it's just one of those that I can drink straight, and it just makes me feel good.
That's what it's all about. Now, you played professional baseball. In between, you were, because you were dedicated, you were committed. You played pro baseball in Mexico. By the way, people who are not aware, pro baseball in Mexico is legit.
Yes, very legit, especially in the winter. So they have a summer and a winter series, and their summer summer, say they have 20 teams in their summer series. In the winter, they only have 8. And so only a select few from the Mexican Summer League get to play in winter ball. And so, it's just a tighter conglomeration of talent. And it is, like you said, it is legit. And it's an absolute blast.
So but along the way, when you're in Mexico, is that when you discovered your love for tequila?
That's definitely where it started. Again, players I played on my team, I had guys, longtime big leaguers, guys that had money, but again, just native Mexicans. And so they said they were drinking, the Don Julio Reposado. And so I said, hey, try it. And I'm like, oh man, in the beginning it was like, oh, tequila shots. I don't know. I think I'll just stick to the Negro Modelo beer that I like drinking. And they're like, no, try it. And I tried it and I was like, oh wow, that's really good. It doesn't have that, the tequila of our college ages. It doesn't have anything like that. Exactly. Think how many times people have pulled off the side streets in Austin off of 6th Street and said, run tequila. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen here.
Oh, Ralph is met. Hey, I don't know how to transition to this, but we have a segment called TikTok in the Man Cave. This is we've seen. There's been some as you know, TikTok. If you've seen it, there's some random.
I do not get on TikTok, but I have seen some videos that are out of this world.
So there's this old man in East Texas. It sounds like our extension of our family, maybe families. These are the great uncles that I remember that I was, cuss a lot. His grandpa in East Texas, funny, so his son films them every time they go out. This old man, this is 2 quick videos. This is TikToking in the Man Cave, Trav. Here you go.
Buffalo Wild Wings. They ain't worth a shit.
They got good chicken, though.
Shit. There ain't no such thing as good chicken. Get me out of here.
What, is it stinking there?
Smell like shit. I don't see how people sit in there and take a dump. On pee.
You know what? This does fit in with what we've been saying because everything has been honest. That guy is just brutally honest. And I love brutal honesty. When the world, we can make it go down to black and white. There's no gray areas. I love it.
Does he remind you like some of our great uncles, maybe grandfathers that we grew up with?
More than likely, more for me, old baseball coaches.
Yes.
Back in pro ball, because when I first got in, there was coaches that were 65, 70 years old. And, they love to say, back when I played, we wore spikes on the cement. And like, oh, well, good for you. But, they like to talk about how tough they were back then and stuff like that. And, yeah, that's what that reminds me of, just an old baseball coach.
I love it.
Had, tobacco stained chins, stains, and everything like that. Yeah.
Hey, man, tell me something good.
So despite all the negativity we see in the internet tough guys and the Twitter keyboard warriors who want to talk shit to everybody and just bash people who would never say that in front of your face or just make it look like America is the worst place in the world, we all have our problems. We all have issues that we're resolving. I'll let you go first because I've got one that you would be proud of. But tell me something good that you see in your world.
Something good that's going on in my world. Oh, boy. Let's see. All right. I'm not going to lie. I've led a sheltered life my whole life. I can honestly say my life has been good probably since the day I was born. My parents made sure, now my wife and my just current family, everybody make sure everything is good. To be honest, I really have no personal complaints. I've done so well taking care of my own personal business that even what's going on in the world with everything that seems to be going wrong, I've insulated myself from it, and I am so blessed and so thankful that it's the way it goes. So I can actually still see all the good in the world, even amongst all the bad.
I love that. Not only are you seeing it from a perspective of I feel like some of us are able to see through all the crap, the layers of crap that we see or hear. That's why, honestly, I don't watch a lot of any news.
Right.
I want to go off what I see in front of me.
Man, that makes perfect sense to me.
There's a lot of great things, Trav. I love that perspective. I want to tell you something good that you'll love. And this is, by the way, brought to you by Kevin Hutchison of Realty Austin. He's been in the real estate game he's working on his third decade, 25 years right now. Anderson Trojan, by the way.
Nice.
He's knowledgeable of Austin and San Antonio, those markets, and
oh no, did you freeze?
we just froze, but thank God we can edit. But here's my tell you something good, Trav. This just happened. So it had always been, during my teenage years, our years in high school, I always was curious about Old Anderson High School and the Yellow Jackets. Phenomenal.
Very cool.
Phenomenal story. It was kept secret for some reason. Maybe because our color of skin. I don't know why. Nobody really talked about it. I wanted to know about it, and I wanted to talk about it at some point. Well, it happened. When I got back from Oklahoma City, there was a historically black college named Langston near Oklahoma City.
Uh-huh.
Old Anderson alums went there and were accomplished. So I said, whenever I get back to Austin, and it finally happened when I went to KVU, wanted to do research and do stories on Old Anderson. Did that, established some relationships. The guy who succeeded me, Jake Garcia, did an amazing job with those Old Anderson stories. Well, there was a group of guy named Eric Swanson, who's a coach at Anderson High School, went out of his way, and we talked, and I said, here's an idea and he thought of the same thing, a unified L.C. Anderson Sports Hall of Fame. Took a little bit of planning. Fast forward, it happened this past Sunday in the Anderson Gym, 300 people. We inducted 10 people, 5 Trojans, 5 Yellow Jackets. A lot of Old Anderson was the school for African Americans before integration. It happened. It was moving, inspiring, everything.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I'm going to send you some pictures.
Yeah. No, that sounds awesome. So, yeah, just to think about where, again, we talked about that, with my father in the baseball field and trying to remember the past and stuff like that. Anderson High School, again, it's obviously not in the same location, and obviously the demographics of the whole school has changed. So, but to remember where it was and now where it is, it shows you how far we've come just as people. And when I think about those times when how we thought like that is just beyond me.
Brother, this has been long overdue. I appreciate
thank you
taking some time. And we learned about your tequila. So we'll have to, the Angel's Envy bourbon. And what's the name of your favorite tequila again?
So Don Julio Reposado is my favorite. But right now, my current one that I'm into is that Toro de Lydia. So like the girl's name, Lydia, and then Toro, Toro, and just the Reposado. And again, it's aged in the old Jack Daniels barrels, and it is off the charts good for an inexpensive tequila.
Man, I can't wait to try it now. We're going to sit on the porch and sip on some of that. There's no doubt. I am good. I am in.
There's a good chance we'll finish a whole bottle.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
But the good thing is, it won't pay. You won't pay for it as much as you would if it was the tequila of our college years. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt so much the next day.
Gag reflex already thinking about that. Hey man, we appreciate you, and we got to do this again. We'll come up with some baseball segment, or keeping it real about current society, something like that.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Oh my God. So for the now VIP alumni, the Travis Driskill, for TD, for Hardball Hards, the OG Man Cave boys, Hardball Hards, Coach Mo, and Big Mike. We out.
You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up.